Hello and welcome once again to High Fell. I know everybody needs the weather update. It's pretty blowy out there, it doesn't really look it. Lovely day the other day, and I was out on my bike and I was looking at a lot of things, including walls. So been experimenting with a few different ideas to make walls here on the layout. And at first I thought I got something quite good, then I decided I didn't like it after I looked at a proper wall again. So this is what I've settled on. It's really quite easy, very inexpensive, so right up my street. So strap yourselves in, particularly you, Sam, because I've got a feeling you're going to be making these. Haha, got a name check. And so I'm going to show you how I made my walls. This was the first attempt at making the stone wall. You can see I've actually used real stones. I got these from a stream that runs through my brother's garden. The idea is piece of cork, PVA, stick the stones on, and that's your wall. You could probably get it a little bit neater, but I think the overall look is not what I was after. I did also try with some PVA and filler mix to get the stones to be a little bit more embedded rather than have that bobbly stuck on look. I'm still not convinced. After I've been out on the bike and I was really paying attention to a lot of the railway construction walls on the bike paths and then also across the farm fields, they just don't look like this. They might do in some parts of the country, so I can certainly remember that walls in Suffolk tend to have quite a lot of rounded pebble-like stones. But certainly up in the northeast, the stone walls themselves have got much more structure to them. The edges have been taken off so that all of the stones interlock properly. So I gave up on that idea, but I did quite like the idea of the cork. So a 3mm piece of cork relates to just over a foot wide in TT. So the proportions for the width are good, and I've got the cork. The texture is potentially there. All of these little tiny granules of cork are compressed together, and if we pick away at those, you can start to create quite a convincing stone look. So I start with a strip. It's approximately 10mm as this strip here. This is actually an offcut from when I was doing the track, and I got plenty to make up some more. And start off just removing the edge on what's going to be the top, and do that down either side, and then that starts to round the top of the wall off. So you've created a bit of a capstone, and then using the back of the blade, just start to dig in and score across. You don't need to press in very hard at all, because once the cork starts to come, just using the side of the blade, just draw it backwards like this, and you can see the little tiny bits of cork start to spring out. You can give it as much detail as you want, so don't be too aggressive, because otherwise you will just break the cork up. If you want to create a bit of a tumble down wall, you can go more aggressively, cut out all these little bits and pieces, save the little offcuts as well, all these little, not really offcuts are they, the little bits and pieces there. You can use those to make wagon loads, or if you wanted to create a little pile next door to the wall where to simulate if it's collapsed, you could do that. It starts to come alive when you put the paint on. So I made a sandstony colour by mixing some of my acrylics. You can do it if you've got violet and yellow, that will just take you straight away to a sandstone colour. I didn't have violet in my pack of cheap acrylics, so I used some blue and some pink and a couple of yellows, mixed it up. I've got some really green gungy looking water, and I'm using that on purpose to add an extra bit of depth to the colour. Mix it all up, get it really wet, soak it all in, and let it dry quite thoroughly. That then helps the cork starts to, I think it starts to expand a little bit. It looks like it does, or whether I'm convincing myself of that, I don't know. But anyway, it highlights all of the texture in there, but it also leaves a little bit of a seal to the surface. So when you add the next layers of paints on, you can dab bits off if you want to. So then I went to a black and green mix, just straight out of the tubes, mix them round. Again, get it quite wet, and then use the black to go in and highlight the texture, and the green just on some of the surfaces A little bit of black here and there, particularly on the top, just to give the impression of that oxidized stone that you tend to see. It looks like it's sooty and all the rest, but in actual fact, all it is, it's just the air acting on it. So you end up with what I think is quite a convincing wall. Being cork, it's really easy to work with, so it's flexible for going around corners and also over undulations as well. So if you've got rolling countryside, you can create the stone wall that follows the line of the land, and I think that's quite a nice thing to replicate and very traditionally British. So if you're going for that look, a thing to do. So hopefully you found that useful. As always, take care and happy modelling.